Welcome back to the Infinity Travel AZ Studios. Today I have Kevin with me from African Travel. How are you today, Kevin?
I am just fantastic, Cindy. It's a pleasure to be here with you today.
It's a pleasure to have you. I'm very excited. Kevin is going to give us a presentation on African travel, and I'm excited to learn a little bit new. So go ahead and take it away, Kevin.
Well, Cindy, thank you very, very much. And I will just go ahead and share my screen here with every for you. So we see what we're doing. So Cindy, yes, it is truly an absolute pleasure to join you today in at African Travel. We are so proud and privileged to partner with you at Infinity Travel AZ to bring Africa. I know we don't have a lot of time today, so we're going to take kind of the express tour of Africa, as it were, or the espresso tour of Africa, if you wish. We put a little cuisine and gourmet onto it as well. But at African Travel, I always like to ensure that your clients know that we actually do not market directly to the public, and we do that for a reason. Because Cindy, we truly believe that what you bring to the table as a travel advisor is so important to your clients, and your clients are your clients. That's very important because as they're hearing this, should you ever see or see anything that comes across your desk that's good for them, and I would love for them to go to Africa, but whatever else it might be, you are going to get in contact with them. And that's why it's so important for them to use you as a travel advisor. And at African Travel, we do truly recognize that. And therefore, we like to work in partnership with you. You know your client, you know the traveler, you know the folks that are listening, what they're looking for, what floats their boat, and equally important, what they don't care for. And we know Africa. So having said that, I'm going to go right into the next slide, which is We Know Africa. That is our moniker at African Travel. And that's purely and simply because it is true. We have been in business for 45 years. So we've been around the block a little bit. So we really, truly do know. And everybody that works for this company is either born in Africa. I myself actually am, for those who don't know, is in the central part of Southern Africa. And I was born and raised there. I spent most of my formative years there. And many other people that work for African Travel are similarly born in Africa, or certainly have lived in Africa or spent a very long time in Africa. Africa has a plethora of choices, and it's very important that we know exactly what is the best choice for each and every one of your clients individually and for each traveler. So as I mentioned, our single focus is Africa, and this is currently the countries that we work with, 16 of them. You'll see this primarily makes up what I would consider to be traditional safari Africa. So East Africa, Central, and on down into Southern Africa. But we also do Egypt, and then just take a little note, a great add-on to anybody going to Egypt is also to take the opportunity and go to Jordan, or perhaps, and so many people now from the United States are using Emirates to fly to Africa. The UAE, Dubai is a great stopover opportunity. It only really need 2 or 3 days there, and what better opportunity to do that and on your way to or from Africa. And then, of course, we also go down into the islands in the Indian Ocean, Seychelles, Mauritius, and Madagascar. But at African Travel, we are actually part of the Travel Corporation. And it's always interesting because the Travel Corporation is the largest privately held travel company in the world. And they were founded in a small fishing village just outside of Cape Town, South Africa, 101 years ago. So Travel Corporation's been around even longer than African Travel as its own entity. But it does mean that our roots run very, very deep in Africa, and it's in our DNA, it's in our heritage. We 24/7, 365 days of the year, eat, sleep, and breathe Africa. And we are North America's largest tour operator that focuses exclusively on Africa. Yes, many other companies do Africa, but they also sell other parts of the world. But this is our life, is Africa. And at African Travel, we're very proud to have the TreadRight Foundation. This is our not-for-profit organization in which we give back to the 3 pillars. So we have the planet, of course, wildlife conservation, but also to the communities. It's very important that we keep giving back to the communities and educating the communities and how important that part they play in the conservation of the wildlife and ensuring that the continent of Africa is there for generations to come. So every single trip that we curate or create is going to have factors and facets to it where we're giving back to at least one, if not many, of these three pillars. And this is a good opportunity to tell you that at African Travel, you know, we are not believers of somebody sitting in a back office and saying, well, you know, we're going to create a trip with a set departure because this is what we think the average Joe wants to do. Each of your clients has their own individual likes, dislikes, comfort zones, and so on. So we work with you and we do everything, and each trip is created and customized exclusively for your client. Now, that does not mean that we throw them to the lions, as it were. We are with them every step of the way and making sure that they just have what is truly a life-changing experience. And when I talk, you always hear me talk a lot about life-changing, because that's what Africa is. This is absolutely a dream trip. A lot of people call it bucket list. I'm on a one-man mission to call it the dream list, because it really is true. But before we get into some of the destinations, I like to talk a little bit about just how big Africa is. Because Cindy, you know, and I know that your clients are going to come and they're going to say, well, I want to go to South Africa. I've heard Cape Town's amazing. Of course, I want to do some safari, perhaps in the Kruger area, maybe down at Shamwari. I definitely want to go to Victoria Falls. While I'm there, I'd love to get to East Africa and do the migration. And whoa, I'd love to go and maybe trek with the gorillas in Rwanda. And then, well, hey, I'm in Africa. I might as well go to Egypt and do the pyramids and the Nile. And I want to do it all in 10 to 14 days. So I like to show this because, as you and I know, that's just simply impossible. So we need to manage the expectation of how much you can do in the time that you have. One of the biggest interesting things that, as you and I know, is that your clients are all going to come and say, I'm going to Africa. It's a once in a lifetime trip. And we're going to sit there and go, okay, whatever. Because we know everybody that comes back from Africa cannot wait to go back at least one more time and several times. That's right. One of the biggest things we hear from everybody, right? I cannot wait to go back and see and do more. So as you can see, the United States would superimpose into the continent of Africa 3, if not 4 times. So you really do. I can give you 5 trips right off the top of my head that are all individually different and unique. So it's very important to manage that. So let's take a look at South Africa. So everybody always says to me, for the first time into Africa, where would you go, Kevin? So I always tend to recommend South Africa. Of course, it's very important that with you, we're going to talk to your client, find out exactly what they're looking for, and advise accordingly. But South Africa really is what I consider to be Africa 101. Everybody that everybody's going to meet or interact with is going to speak English. Hot and cold running water everywhere, flushing toilets everywhere, even when you're out in lodges and camps in the middle of nowhere. And what is one of the most amazing things about South Africa that we hear from everybody coming back is they're blown away by the quality of the food. This is gourmet style eating at every turn, everywhere you go, even in the middle of nowhere. People come back and go, wow, it was amazing, the dishes and the food they were giving us and creating. When we were in the middle of the bush, we were just absolutely amazed. And interestingly enough, Cape Town, which by the way is the mother city of South Africa, is one of the top cities in the world right now for foodies. Yeah. So yes, of course, we know that everybody wants to go for the animals, but South Africa does have Cape Town. It's the mother city of the country, a stunningly beautiful city surrounded on 3 sides by water, the iconic Table Mountain in the background. This is a very outdoorsy city, very green. If anybody's ever been to Sydney, Australia, a very similar kind of feel to it as you would get going to there. So very outdoorsy, just absolutely wonderful, but with its very own definite identity. So it truly is a beautiful city. And of course, everybody, Cindy, wants to go up Table Mountain. That's the #1 thing everybody wants to do. And to do that, we take this cable car up. It is possible if you want to hike up or bicycle up. If you're that active and fit, have at it. We can make that happen. But the vast majority of people take this cable car. And the great thing about the cable car is that as you're going up or down, this car actually very slowly rotates, and it will turn several times during the ascent or descent. So it means everybody gets an opportunity to get those amazing views out over the ocean, over the city, which would be off to our right-hand side, or even the mountainside itself, which is every bit as fascinating as you're going up. And there are some smaller animals that live on the mountainside, hyrax and things, that you can see as you're going up. So you're getting a glimpse of wildlife at this point as well. And it also means you don't get everybody rushing to one side of the cable car and it kind of going up, to take their pictures. So it's very innovative and it's very cool. And of course, once you're up at the top, the views are simply spectacular. One of the most beautiful places on Earth. Then the second most requested is to go down to Cape Point. So Cape Point is a very important part on our planet geographically. This is the southernmost point of the continent of Africa. It's very rugged, it's very beautiful, it's blustery. I just love it out here, and it's absolutely fantastic. And then just about 20 miles along the coast from Cape Point, so easily put together and combined, we go to Boulders Beach. And at Boulders Beach, we have a year-round colony of penguins. So we don't have to go all the way to Antarctica to see penguins. We have them for you in South Africa. And as I love to say, who doesn't love to see a couple of penguins kissing on the beach?
Exactly.
Absolutely. And then if you're into wine, the Cape winelands are amazing. South African wines have come such a long way in the last 30, 35 years, and are now winning prizes with the very, very best of the French and Californian wines and so on. But even if you're not into wine, the winelands are only about 25 miles from the center of Cape Town. So it's really easy to get out here, do a half day. There are some wonderful, wonderful restaurants out here, so you can go out and have lunch. And as you can see, the scenery is stunningly beautiful. This is a Kodak moment at every turn. It's really, really amazing. So it's a great way to see a little bit of rural South Africa that's different from the safari portion, which we get to in a second. So it really is great. But if those who are interested in wines, you can go out, spend a day, do 2 or 3 wine tastings. There are also some wonderful boutique hotels out here. So a lot of people will actually go and do 2 or 3 nights out in the winelands as well. And really, it's an amazing add-on to any stay in Cape Town. And of course, the people in South Africa. One of the biggest things we hear, I talked earlier about how everybody comes back and says they can't wait to go back and do more. One of the things we hear is, I went for the animals, but I will go back for the people. Throughout Africa, not only in South Africa, throughout. And I always feel I have to apologize, I kind of feel I'm showing the 3-headed lady in this image, but it's obviously what it is. But they sing beautifully, they smile, they're so welcoming. As I say, South Africa specifically, but really throughout Africa, you'll always get an amazing welcome from all of the people. And then we get to the safari portion. So in South Africa, there are actually many, many options to do safari. Most people think of the Kruger area. It's what we've heard of mostly here in the United States. But there is some wonderful areas in the southeast part of South Africa. There is a private national park, a private reserve, called Shamwari. Actually, one of my most favorite private reserves in all of Africa. And yet very few people ever go there. But the lodges and camps are absolutely fantastic. And the wildlife is amazing. And because it's not as busy as Kruger, you get a much more intimate and exclusive experience. And there are other areas like that. The other great thing about Shamwari or Madikwe, which is in the northern part of the country, is these are actually malaria-free national or private reserves. So anybody who has any concern about taking anti-malaria pills or anything doesn't have to worry, because there are malaria-free areas that you can go to.
Good to know.
Absolutely. And one of the big things about doing game drives in South Africa, and I'm going to use a word here, but I use it in the most positive terms possible, people are going to be shocked by how up close and personal they get with the animals. It is very, very safe. This image is in no way doctored at all. It is amazing. It is truly life-changing. And I will use that word because that is what Africa is all about. And of course, everybody that's going to Africa usually is heard of and wants to tick off the big 5. And obviously, starting down in bottom right, we've got our lion, buffalo, elephant. Up in the top there, the leopard. Leopard is actually the most elusive of these 5. This is nature. It's not animatronics. This is not a setup. It's impossible for us to guarantee what you will see. In South Africa, very, very high chances of seeing all 5. But if there's one missing, it's going to be the leopard, just because that is the most difficult to see. And then, of course, in top left are my friends, the rhino. And the rhinos are critically, critically endangered. And in African Travel, we have several initiatives to try and save these creatures. It is a race against time. We're losing that race, but we're trying very, very hard to save them so that they will be here for the families and generations to come, because they are truly absolutely magnificent prehistoric looking creatures. And it's just incredible. Cindy, number one add-on to anybody going to South or Southern Africa is, of course, Victoria Falls.
Right.
So this is the largest curtain of water in the world. It's a UNESCO World Heritage Site, and guess what? It just happens to be one of the 7 natural wonders of the world.
Right.
So everybody always says to me, Kevin, I've been to Niagara Falls. Do I really need to go up to Victoria Falls? The answer to that is resounding yes.
Yep.
This is on the Zambia-Zimbabwe border. It's about a 1-hour flight from Johannesburg, so very easy to get to from South Africa. And it makes Niagara look like a drop in the bucket. It's absolutely stunning. And when you're here, you can be as crazy as you want. You can go zip lining and bungee jumping, helicopter rides, inflatables. And if you look at those folks sitting in the middle image there, right behind them, see how the gray changes from one shade to another. They are sitting on the edge of the falls. This is Devil's Gorge. Oh, yes. A little suicidal, in my opinion, but you can do it. You can only do it for certain weeks of the year when the falls are in low flow. But it is for people that really like the ultimate in adrenaline rush. This is it. It's amazing. But if you want something a little more sedate and simple, there is a wonderful walkway that goes the full length of the falls, overlooking it, with these incredible turnouts that you can just go there and take the most amazing pictures of the falls. It truly, truly is spectacular.
It's beautiful.
So I'd love to move up now to East Africa, and we're going to look at Kenya, and I'm actually going to put Tanzania together because these 2 countries are both very similar in the layout, the style of safari you're going to go on, and so on. So we talked about in South Africa, you've got basically a trifecta. You go to the city of Cape Town, definitely worth 3 or 4 days. You're going to go out on safari because the animals in the private reserves that we work with in South Africa are relatively compact. These are still huge open areas of land and space, but they are, compared to East Africa, quite compact. So you're going to see a lot of animals, and you're going to get your animal fix in South Africa very quickly, and lots of it. Once we get, and then of course you have Victoria Falls to complete that trifecta. Once we get to East Africa, we're now dealing with much greater swaths of land. This is true, raw, majestic Africa. This is the out of Africa that we've seen in the movies and so on. And I have goosebumps now just thinking about it and talking about it. It's just amazing. I really do. They just went right down my back. It's amazing. So in these 2 countries, it is possible to be out for an hour and a half, 2 hours, and maybe not see much or see little. But once you do find them, oh my goodness, they are in their multitudes. And as a result of that, we do tend to advise and take, depending on the amount of time, but with 7, 8, 9 days, we certainly recommend visiting at least 3 different areas of either country. With 10, 12, 14, we usually up that to 4 areas. You can combine the 2 countries and see the difference between them, because each area is actually quite unique and has its own thing to offer. So what I want to do today is, in interest of time and so on, we're going to take a look at 4 different areas in Tanzania just super quickly. And the first of these is Tarangire National Park. And I love Tarangire because it kind of flies under the radar. It's not terribly well known. Everybody that wants to go to Tanzania, of course, wants to go to the Serengeti, and we'll talk about that in a second. So Tarangire does fly under the radar, but it has an absolute amazing array of wildlife. It's incredible. So very often you'll be in Tarangire and have the park pretty much to yourself. They also have these wonderful, wonderful baobab trees, which a lot of people call the upside down tree, because they actually don't have foliage on. They look like you see in this image for about 10 months of the year. So it looks like it's their root system sticking out of the ground, and the tree is upside down, which is always kind of fun.
It does.
And then we go on to Lake Manyara. And the great thing about this, these are about 2-hour drives in between. So you're getting to see a little bit more of that. You can do it easily by road. But once you get to Lake Manyara, now you're on the lake, as the name would imply. And yes, they have a great variety here of 4-legged animals, but they also have an incredible variety of bird life here. And the thing I love about it is everybody comes away from Lake Manyara and goes, wow, I never knew that I would be so interested in birds and that I would learn so much and it would be so fascinating. It's like, wow, there are hundreds of varieties. And in just really one night or 2 nights in this area, you can learn so much, which is incredible.
Wow.
Then about another 2 to 2.5 hour drive on, we get to Ngorongoro Crater. Now, Ngorongoro Crater is another very important spot on our planet. Many people consider it should be considered the 8th wonder of the world. It's one of the planet's largest craters. Absolutely fantastic. It creates its whole own ecological and climatic system. It's very deceiving because what look like hillsides here are actually about 2,000 feet tall. So it is really massive. And there are all the animals that live in the crater never leave the crater, and no humans are allowed to live in the crater. So all of the lodges and so on are actually up on the rim of the crater. And Cindy, let me tell you, I have more goosebumps because I know what's coming. It's like you walk out onto the balcony of your lodge, of the room at your lodge, you look down into the crater early in the morning with your steaming cup of coffee, and you hear the lions roaring and the elephants trumpeting, and the clouds are cascading down the sides of the crater like a waterfall. It's just amazing, absolutely incredible. So again, a very, very different area to Tanzania and from what we've seen already. And then, of course, we would move on to Serengeti National Park. So this is probably the most famous of all the national parks in Africa. It is really where the safari experience was born some 70, 75 years ago already now. My gosh, and how time has passed. But amazing. This is the out of Africa that you've dreamed of. Those huge, huge open spaces with one acacia tree sitting, sticking out of the ground like a beacon. It's just amazing. Absolutely fantastic. And while you're in East Africa, and actually becoming a little more popular in Southern Africa, not so much in South, but in Botswana, which we'll talk about in a second, hot air ballooning is always an optional activity to do. And if ever you have that opportunity, I highly recommend that you do it. There is no better way than to waft over the plains of Africa in total silence, except of course when they pump the gas, and just look down, see the animals, see the landscape, see the beauty of this majesty of Africa from a hot air balloon. And of course, you will end up with a traditional champagne breakfast at the end. I promise that we won't land in a pride of lions or cheetahs or anything. So you won't be breakfast. You will enjoy breakfast. And what's amazing about, this is true for all over Africa. Service is incredible. They know how to do service. We look at, we think here in the US, we have 5-star service and whatever. Trust me, when you come back from Africa, you learn a whole different level of service. It's amazing. And to have these champagne breakfasts out there again in the middle of nowhere, and what they pull out, and they have, they erect a bathroom and they have wash hand basins already. And that's something that's probably a good opportunity or a good thing to talk about right now. Is I actually just got back from Kenya myself last week. I was there for a week. The CEO of the Travel Corporation just got back from South Africa and Botswana. And one of my team members just got back also from Kenya. She and her husband went on their honeymoon about 6 weeks ago. And all of us found the protocols that are currently in place in Africa to be exemplary. We were really blown away by them. Everybody had masks on all the time. In fact, in Kenya, it's illegal to walk down the street without a mask. You can be fined. And everywhere we went, and every person we interacted with, drivers, rangers, guides, hotel check-in people, hotel managers, pilots on the small airplanes, everybody always had a bottle of sanitizer in their hand. Squirt, squirt, squelch, squelch, clean, clean, every single time. Every place you went to, they had a sink. It was sometimes a little makeshift, but it always had a fresh water tank attached to it that came down with proper soap and paper towels that you could then dry with, and a proper place to dispose of them. Everywhere we went, they were absolutely amazing with protocols for COVID. So I was very, very impressed. And in fact, when we got off the plane in New York on the way back, I was like, wow, I see a big difference in what we just did
I'm sure.
to what's happening here, and how much more important they see it as being there. So
Yeah.
consequently, the result of that, particularly East Africa, is wide open. South Africa, because of the variant, a little more cautious right now, but they will get over that and get past it. But they're doing a great job with that.
All right.
So back onto what we really need to be talking about at the moment, and that, of course, is East Africa. So, a lot of people have heard about the migration, and everybody says, well, gee, one of the biggest myths about this is that they think it's just once a year. So if you look at this map on the left-hand side here, you will see that it actually is 12 months a year. It is a cycle. It just goes round and round. So one of the great things at African Travel is we absolutely have our ears to the ground. By the way, we do have 16 regional offices of our own throughout Africa. So we are the largest footprint of travel in Africa. So when, like with so many companies, you book with the company, but when you get there, you're handled by somebody else. That is not the case. When you get booked with African Travel, when you get there, you're handled by African Travel. So we do have our own people everywhere. So because of that, we know where the animals are. We know which mobile camps to work with. And mobile camp does not mean giving up any of your creature comforts. Mobile camps are still glamping at their best. It's amazing, private toilets and so on. If it means that you're traveling in, let's say, for example, July, and you wanted to go and you want to see the Great Migration, we know exactly where to take you. And if they've moved 50 miles or 60 miles the day before you get there, the camp is going to move and we're going to take you to the new site of the camp instead, so that you still will be upon them. And it also means that you can see the migration any time of the year. So if there's only one specific time that you can travel, you can see it. Now, another issue about migration is because we all see it on National Geographic, on PBS, whatever it might be. We see the animals in their thousands crossing the rivers, and the crocodiles are sitting in the river waiting for the buffet to open. It's an amazing sight. It's honest to living. It's a little gory, but the crocodiles have to eat as much as the rest of us do, and that's where they get a good feeding. But it is nature, and it does happen. The big thing with that is nobody can guarantee when that is going to happen. So the animals will come predominantly at the Sand River, which is right on the Tanzania and Kenyan border, moving from Serengeti into Masai Mara. So the animals will come there and they will stay, and they may stand at the side of the river for 2 or 3 weeks.
Oh,
it is instinct versus fear. They know the crocodiles are in there, but the instinct is to push on and go to the better grazing grounds. So eventually instinct always wins, but we just don't know when. And it's possible you could go and sit on the side of that river for 10, 12, 15 days and just see thousands of animals, but nothing happening. And the day you leave is the day they choose to cross the river. So we always need to manage that expectation as well. We can guarantee you'll see the animals, but we can't guarantee you'll see a river crossing. So that's just really important. So then we move on to Rwanda. So Rwanda is a very small country in East Africa, but absolutely with a massive punch. It's incredible. This is all about primates, or primarily about primates. There are 13 species of primates found in Rwanda and Uganda, which is just to the north, that are found nowhere else in Africa. So it's absolutely incredible and life-changing. This is truly life-changing. To go trekking with the gorillas is beyond one of the most amazing things anybody could wish to do in their life. It's very interesting. It is very highly controlled. Only 8 people maximum are able to go every day to a family of gorillas, and they will be there for a maximum of 1 hour. Most visits are 45 to 50 minutes, but the gorillas decide when the visit is over. So if the gorillas are just not feeling up to it today and you're only there 15, 20 minutes, they make it known, and we pull you out and we leave right away. But there is only one group of people that is allowed to visit the family per day. So the gorillas are on their own 23 hours per day. But they control that 1 hour that we're with them. But it's amazing. It truly is absolutely incredible. You also have the opportunity here to go chimpanzee trekking. And I think it's kind of interesting because when I say chimpanzees, of course, everybody goes, oh my gosh, of course, chimpanzees in Africa. But when you think of Africa, chimpanzees are not always the first thing that comes to mind. So, gorillas, I think perhaps, yes, certainly, of course, lions, elephants, giraffes, and so on. But chimpanzees are incredible. And where the gorillas are very laid back and just hanging and chilling, the chimpanzees are neurotic. They go crazy. So they're running and whatever to try and get an image like this. Trust me, not so easy, but a wonderful, wonderful experience. Absolutely fantastic. And the people of Rwanda are so incredibly friendly. I talked about friendly people before, but these ones really outdo even that. And Rwanda is a very interesting country. It's very forward thinking. So Rwanda was the first country in Africa to ban single-use plastic bags. So you'll see no plastic shopping bags anywhere or any plastic bags of any sort in Rwanda. Kigali is the capital city of Rwanda. It happens to be the cleanest city in all of Africa. And that's because in remembrance of the genocide that took place here about 35 years ago, the government decrees that one Saturday of the month, every able-bodied person must come out and clean the city. And they're so proud of this that many people do it every Saturday. And another very interesting piece of trivia about Rwanda is it is the #1 country in the world for female representation in government. They have a very high representation of females in government. Interestingly enough, United States, number 77. That may have changed just recently, but they are still way down the totem pole. So just incredible. Moving back down south again very quickly, and take a look at Botswana. So Botswana is home to the Okavango Delta. So here the animals have adapted to living in, on, and around the water, and therefore most of your safari will be done in and on the water. And you know, every trip to Africa, aside from being life-changing, is all about wow moments. Again, it's nature. This is not animatronics. I cannot guarantee what anybody's wow moment is going to be. I can guarantee there will be wow moments and many of them during the trip. But wow, look at this. This is what I call a real wow moment. And if you come home with images like this, you guys are going to be the talk of your communities, villages, towns, cities for days, weeks, months to come. You'll be at every dinner party and cocktail party that's going. And it's just something that stays with you forever, right, Cindy? Just amazing, incredible.
Oh, yeah, that'd be awesome.
Absolutely. Now, again, I can't guarantee this will happen, but if it does, wow.
Yeah.
And I want to introduce you very, very quickly to Kituro Safari Lodge. This actually just opened on 1st of December. It's a Red Carnation property. Red Carnation does have some other hotel properties in South Africa, but this is their first entry to Safari Lodge. It is amazing. This is mind-blowing. The attention to detail is incredible. And this, in my mind, is going to be the best safari lodge in all of Africa once things get back to normal. So I just always like to tell everybody this because it's always good that you heard something here first, right, Cindy? We want you to be the pioneer of that kind of news.
Exactly.
Moving on to Namibia. So Namibia shares a border with Botswana. And I told you Botswana, Okavango Delta, waterlogged. Here in Namibia, we go to the other end of the spectrum. We are now in the desert. And it always blows my mind that that's the case. What it really surprises everybody about Namibia is that you have rhinos and lions and elephants and giraffes and antelope living in the desert in these very harsh conditions. And you know, only about 5% of people who travel to Africa ever actually go to Namibia. So if you're looking to do something very different, very exclusive, very much in your own bubble, Namibia really is incredible. And this is wide open spaces. All of Africa is all about wide open spaces, natural social distancing we have. But Namibia really brings that to another level. It's incredible. Zambia and Zimbabwe, I told you at the beginning, I am originally from Zambia, so I'm very biased. But here I draw your attention super quickly to top left and top right. This is Mfui Lodge in Zambia. This lodge was built around a grove of mango trees, and the elephants had been feasting on these mango trees for generations. So after the lodge was built, the elephants were like, well, the heck with your lodge, we're still coming to get our mangoes. Now, elephants are creatures of great habit and tradition. So the traditional paths take them through what is now the lobby of this lodge. So if you happen to, you're there and this happens to happen, wow, another wow moment. Again, I can't guarantee that they will come for mangoes while you're there. Of course, mangoes are not all the time. They are seasonal. But if it does, wow, what an incredible, amazing experience to be standing in the lobby and share it with the elephants as you're checking in.
Yeah.
And final country I want to look at is Madagascar. So I would love to talk to you just 45 minutes just on Madagascar. There is so much to say here. but this is the the Galapagos of Africa. It's an island about 500 miles off the southeast coast of the continent of Africa. 500 miles in geological, biological terms is nothing. Yet this country, 85% of the flora and fauna found on the island of Madagascar, found nowhere else on the planet. 107 species and subspecies of lemur. And if you take a look up on the top right there, you see my little friend. He is a blue-eyed black lemur. And his claim to fame is that he is the only primate on Earth, aside from human beings, that has blue eyes.
Oh.
So really cool.
Yeah.
So then you always say, well, Kevin, this is all very well and great, but what about, where are we going to stay? Is it going to be some kind of mud hut with a thatched roof and a hole around the back for the bathroom or whatever? Absolutely not. The accommodations in Africa are always just simply incredible. You will leave no creature comforts at home. This is not a presidential suite or something similar. This is a standard bathroom at a lodge in South Africa. It just shows you the kind of level. Now, this one happens to have a private plunge pool out on the deck there. Not all of them do, but if that's in your bucket list and on your dream list and that's what you want, then we can absolutely make that happen for you. And tented camps, look at this. So all of the tented camps that we work with, now this one happens to have canvas flaps for the doors, but many of the tented camps we work with actually have sliding glass doors. They have air conditioning where air conditioning would be expected. If you didn't touch the wall, you wouldn't even know you were in a tent. It's simply incredible. And they all have private ensuite bathrooms and so on. So really, really an amazing. This is glamping in true style. Look at this. I mean, how much more out of Africa do you get than something like this? I just love it. I'm like, oh, I could just see myself there doing breakfast and drinks in the afternoon or whatever it might be. Just absolutely amazing. And then if you're looking for something really different, really special, and truly romantic, star beds. So there are not a lot of star beds. We're starting to see more lodges building them because they are becoming very popular. But the great thing about this is, you know, we all live under the same sky. And unfortunately, most of us never really see the sky properly between light pollution, air pollution, and so on. But when you're in Africa, it's amazing. There are 1 million points of light shining down upon you. It's simply incredible. And to spend the night out underneath, looking up at that sky, it's just mind-blowing. It's life-changing. It's truly incredible. And one of the great things about this is if you take that, by the way, this is very, very, very safe. I know a lot of people wonder about that, but it truly is. And if you take this 4-poster bed, and if you drop down just half a level and go over to the right, you'll see a sort of an enclosed area. That's actually your bathroom. So you do have a full bathroom on this, and you don't have to be peeing over the edge of the banister in the middle of the night or worrying about that in any shape or form.
Oh,
we already, of course, talked about the big five. There is much more to see than that. Giraffes and hippos, the painted wolves of southern Africa that you see down in the bottom left. And that critter that you're seeing on the bottom right, that is a honey badger. He is the most elusive of all critters in Africa. I know people who have been rangers for 40 years and never seen one. But I do happen to know some people that have been to Africa 3 times and saw one each time. So you just never know. But interesting thing about him, he is the most dangerous critter and the meanest critter. Even the lions are afraid of this guy. So
oh, wow.
They don't. One of the most wonderful traditions we have in Africa, of course, is our sundowners. So sundowners are where every single day, whether you're out on game drive or sitting in the lodge or in a city, about 15 to 20 minutes before sunset, we stop. It's really cool. If you're out on game drive, you're out on the Jeep, and out of the Jeep comes these tables and chairs and tablecloths and napkins and plates and proper glasses and silverware and a full bar, gin, rum and vodka and tea and coffee and red wine and white wine and beer and everything you can imagine, and all the mixes to go with it and appetizers. It's like Mary Poppins pulling it all out of the bag. It's absolutely amazing. But we pour ourselves a drink and we bid farewell to the sun. Every day. So we call this sundown. It truly is an amazing African tradition, and I absolutely love it. So we would love for you guys to come and experience our Africa. We are there. We're waiting. You know, we can do Africa 101, but throw Cindy that curveball. Let's make it a little more complicated. Let's do something fun and unusual for you, because Cindy's waiting. She would love to make your dreams come true, and so wouldn't we. And in partnership with her, we welcome you most heartily to the continent of Africa. So with that, Cindy, I thank you, and I'm happy to chat with you a little bit more about what we've seen today.
Oh my gosh, that was absolutely amazing. Yeah, I've seen pictures of Africa, but the photos you had just really brought it to life. That was probably the most impressive pictures that I have seen. I'm getting goosebumps.
Oh, good. And trust me, when you go, and the other thing, Cindy, that happens when you go to Africa is something very special happens to you. There have actually been studies done on this. And is it because, a lot of people feel Africa is the cradle of mankind? Do our souls commute with the ground? What is it? We don't know. And people think I'm crazy when I talk about this. But once you go to Africa, when you come back, you get it. And you'll say, wow. And you'll talk to somebody and you'll say, oh, I just went to Africa. And they'll say, oh, I did too. And you suddenly have a very definite and specific connection. And people who haven't been to Africa don't have that yet. They just don't get it. But once you've been, it's like the light, it's like, wow, it's amazing. More goosebumps, another goosebump moment.
I can imagine. Like I told you, my friend went 3 times in 1 year, and she went to, several different countries. And I guess I didn't really understand it until I saw your photos. So, I'm just amazed. So in the very beginning, you had pictures of really fat trunk trees with like just a little bit of stuff on top. What kind of trees are those?
Right. So those are the baobab trees. And as I mentioned, they're considered to be people call them the upside down tree. And an interesting piece of trivia about those, because they are without foliage for about 10 months of the year. So though what you saw sticking out there looks like a root system, is there 10 months of the year looking like that. But their trunks are full of water. In the rains, they just soak up water and they live on that. And some of the tribes actually know how to go in there and get the water out, and will use them as a water source in very dry seasons. But an interesting piece of trivia about those, we talked about Madagascar. There are 8 species of baobabs in Africa. They all look very similar, the big trunks, that foliage, but there are slight differences to them. But 2 species found on mainland Africa, the other 6 only found on the island of Madagascar.
Oh, wow. Mother Nature is an amazing thing. I can't imagine sitting on the bank of a river and watching the animals cross. That must be amazing too.
And what's wonderful, Cindy, and it doesn't even have to be at the migration time, and if you're lucky enough to see that, but if you go to somewhere like Victoria Falls, which is on the mighty Zambezi, the banks of the Zambezi are loaded with wildlife. So you go cruising up and down the river, you're seeing wildlife. You saw the picture of the inflatables with the elephants, right there. But even as you said, there's a lodge called the Victoria Falls River Lodge. It's one of my favorite lodges in all of Africa. And they only have 12 tents, very luxurious. They sit on the river, and each tent, river facing, very private, and they each have their own private plunge pool, small, not as big as the one we saw in the other image, small plunge pool, but enough you can get in there and have a beer or a cup of coffee in the morning or whatever it might be, beer in the afternoon, or beer in the morning if that's what you want. Hello.
Champagne.
Absolutely, anything you want. And you can sit in there and watch the hippos walking along and the elephants coming. And that lodge actually is set right in the middle of the territory of a herd of apparently about 40, family of about 45 elephants. And the elephants do walk through that lodge quite often along the banks of the river. So you can be sitting there and just sipping that glass of champagne, and the elephants are just walking right along between your hot tub or your plunge pool and the river, which is only maybe about 30 feet away. It's just
wow. Yeah, that's amazing. And to go hot air ballooning that over the whole thing, just I gotta go.
You sure do. Absolutely.
Got to go. So,
well, I know you've got a lot. I hope we've inspired a lot of people today, and they're ready to go too. And maybe you can all go together. You can get a group of them together and you can lead it, and I'll come with you. We'll all go together. How's that?
That would be amazing. Oh my gosh. That was just so fantastic. I can't even tell you how like I said, I got the goosies too, as J-Lo says. That was awesome. Thank you so much for showing us that today and being here today with us. That was absolutely incredible.
Well, absolutely my pleasure. And anytime, and if ever we want to do anything more in depth, like I said, Madagascar or anywhere in depth, we can do it again, Cindy. We can get those goosebumps going in this virtual world and then for real.
Okay. All right. I will take you up on that. I'll email you.
I'll be there.
Thank you again, and you have a great rest of your day. And I'm inspired, so it worked. At least for
Excellent.
me, it was
That's
great. All right, have a great rest of your day.